Hello, class, and welcome to the Literary Analysis class. I'm your professor, Miranda Hewlett, and we are going to be reading our first text, which is Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom. Okay, so we're starting off with a nonfiction book. You can see a photo of Morrie Schwartz there on the left. And we're going to begin our course with this textbook and reading the first two chapters this week. There's a photo of the author, Mitch Albom, and Morrie Schwartz. Okay, so just a couple of pointers to help guide you for success in this course. Avoid researching about this book or reading any reviews or interviews with the author, etc. Anything that you might find that has been written by others about this textbook, we want to try to avoid that at this time. Also, please do not watch the film at this time. We will explore it at the end of the course. The reason for this is that you will gain the most from this book by experiencing it for yourself personally. So there's no right or correct answer to the questions that you will be answering in this course. So I don't want you to feel like you have to figure something out or that there's something really specific that you have to learn or facts that you have to memorize. That's not going to be how this course is run. So in order to get the most from the course, the purpose of it is much like Morrie's final lesson in the book, which you will learn about. It's learning about the meaning and the value of life. And everyone will get something slightly different from this course and from reading the book. Therefore, it's really important that you commit to doing your own thinking, in your own reflection, in your own reading, and spending that time that you need to spend on each of the readings and the concepts that we cover. So for those reasons, I would rather that you not go and read other people's interpretations of the text, including the film, which is someone else's interpretation of the text. That way, you'll have an opportunity to interpret these lessons for yourself. And then, after you have felt like you've done that and thoroughly explored that, then it would be a good time to go and check out some comparative reading if you're interested. All right, so this is a quick intro, and this takes us right into the first lesson, which is already posted. The first lesson is already posted for you in Google Classroom. The chapters in this book are brief. They won't take you very long to read. They're pretty short, and the book is quite accessible. It's not very challenging. It's not meant to be. So the author, Mitch Albom, is actually a former sports journalist, and you'll learn a little bit more as he talks about himself throughout the book. But he is not a professor. He is not someone who writes complex textbooks, and you'll find that he writes for a general audience, and he's pretty easy to read. It's not, you won't find yourself having to hold on to a dictionary in order to understand most of what he's talking about. Uh, all that said, though, please, as you're reading, take your time. It would be easy to read really quickly through this book, but if you did that, I think you would lose a lot of the depth or meaning behind his words. Albom uses very few words in order to achieve a great deal of meaning, and he quotes Morrie quite a lot throughout the text, who I would argue has even more meaningful things to say in fewer words. So it is really important to take your time to stop and allow yourself time to process the words and to highlight or copy the lines that are particularly meaningful to you. Either copy them in your book or, if you'd like to use sticky notes, whatever works for you. It can be a good idea to mark those lines that are particularly meaningful to you, even if you'd like to copy them down in a separate notebook or journal or type them up. That's also fine. It's a good idea to keep track of them along with the page number where you found them, as that might be handy for you later or to return back to as you keep reading. Because there are so many wonderful lines like that throughout this textbook. I keep saying textbook throughout this book. You might find that you have forgotten some of the earlier ones as you move through, because there is just a lot of really dense and important learning in this book. Which is very deep and meaningful. So you might forget some of the earlier stuff. So it's a good idea to jot down or highlight any of those lines that are particularly meaningful or that you feel like you want to remember or return to. And we will also return to many of those meaningful lines throughout this course, and I will highlight some of those as well. So your first task is to read the first two chapters of the book. The chapters are not numbered, but they are titled, and you will see on the inside cover of the book, a few pages in, you'll see that there's a list of the chapters and their corresponding page numbers, which I will also upload onto the Google Classroom just so we have that to reference. But the first chapter is only 2 pages. It's called the curriculum. And then the second chapter is called the syllabus. You might notice there's a theme going on here, which will make sense as you read a little bit about the relationship between these two men and how they met. So after you read those first 2 chapters, your task will be to write your first written response. There's a link to that assignment here on the Google Classroom link. And I did put a due date in here. It's because you have a busy weekend. I set it out for the next weekend, but there's nothing keeping you from doing this early. And if you do it early, we'll just keep moving the course along at your pace. So it's really nothing that's critical, those due dates, but that way I just kind of keep us moving along by setting due dates in the Google Classroom. So if we look, I'll show you a little exploration of Google Classroom real quick so you can just see what this looks like. When you first get logged into Google Classroom, you'll click on the literary analysis class, which is this course that we're in now. When you first get in here, you will see the stream is where it where it opens to. So that's like the landing page for Google Classroom. This is where it will always take you. From here, you can see the most recent post that I've made. It'll always be at the top, and it'll tell you if work is upcoming, things like that. What I always direct students to do is to go to the classwork tab, because when you click on classwork, you can see individual assignments. And as we have more assignments, they will be broken down and organized so that this is an easier way for you to find those assignments or to go back to prior assignments. Whereas the stream, it just ends up being a long list of links by the end of a semester. So it's kind of more difficult to navigate. So classwork is a good place to go. When you click on classwork, you'll just see the one assignment is in here now, and you'll see it has Sunday, June 2nd as the due date. And when you open it up, it gives you a quick little synopsis, but you'll notice that you can't see all of the verbiage there. So if you click view question, it will open it all the way up for you. And you can see the full question here at the top. And then there's like the explanation and then any attachments. So the slideshow that I was just showing in this video is attached here. So you're welcome to go back and look through those slides at any time. And I will keep adding to those slides as we go through the course. So every every few chapters and the writing assignment that goes along with it, or discussion, or whatever it is that you're doing along with that section of the book, will correspond to the slides that are in the slideshow. So that helps you kind of see what we've covered so far and lets you go back and review it anytime if you'd like to. So for this assignment, it's just a discussion question where you're going to just add a comment to respond to it. So the instructions down here at the bottom say the first 2 chapters of Tuesdays with Morrie are an introduction to the greater story. Respond to this prompt after reading chapters 1 through 2, pages 1 through 13. There is no minimum word count, so you can write as much or as little as you are comfortable with, but I'm asking to please use this space to express any reactions, questions, or thoughts that came up for you thus far. And you're going to be responding to the question up here at the top in the blue letters. And that question says, what have you learned thus far about the relationship between the author, Mitch Albom, and Morrie Schwartz, who is the title character from the book? So what have you learned about the relationship between these two men? And then the second question says, based on what you've read so far, what do you expect this book will be about? And what do you expect to learn? So I'm going to ask you to use this space to respond to those questions, and then anything else like I have here, any other reactions, questions, or thoughts that came up for you, please feel free to share those here as well. And I will use your responses also to help formulate as the class goes along, since this class is being tailored to the students and their reaction to the book. I will use your responses to help tailor that learning to what you need and what you'd like to talk about, and we'll kind of branch off from there. So this video concludes our first lesson for the literary analysis course and our first reading on Tuesdays with Morrie. I hope you enjoy the first 2 chapters, and I will see you next week.